you have to understand and know the limitations of AI. So first of all, that is key. So people who raise concerns about it might have seen some of those limitations. What I think people do not recognise is that you can work around them.
Hello and welcome to this FT Advisor Fireside Chat with me, Alina Khan, Senior Reporter here at FT Advisor. And I'm joined today by Helena Wardle, founder of Money Means, and Sally Williams, Chartered Financial Planner at Money Means. And we're here to talk about Aida, your AI financial advisor. So she recently obviously passed her exams. It's weird calling her a she, but she passed her exams. Can you sort of talk to me, obviously I know Sally, you kind of pioneered in training Aida. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that was for you as being a financial planner yourself? It must have been, a bit of a learning curve, kind of being part of this whole new world.
Yeah, well, it was. So obviously I've done these exams myself in the past. So going about training Aida, it wasn't entirely different to the way we started approaching it. Was how similar to how maybe a human would. So we started by looking at past papers and trying to identify where Aida was, doing all right in terms of the exams, and actually where maybe we needed to look at sort of, stepping in and sort of building up that knowledge and building up those skills in order to answer certain questions, because whilst there are similarities, there are also an awful lot of differences as well.
Mm. And Helena, talk me through as to why you decided to start Aida in the first place.
The mission is really about helping people for years as a planner, and often hearing people tell me, I wish I did this sooner. And genuinely knowing that my friends couldn't access financial advice, and looking at the solutions out in the market, I just realised that they were funnels into investment products and not really solving the real problems that I was solving for clients as an advisor. And yes, investments might be the outcome, for many people, but actually it's the understanding of the situation, the strategy, the thinking through what is the right thing to do, and helping them navigate that. And that is very relational. And I couldn't see any solutions out there that was doing that. We went through various different ways of trying it, and we clocked onto the fact that conversational AI is quite a really big solution towards solving that, because people are prepared to interact with AI in the same way as they interact with humans. They're prepared to talk, chat, voice, and the landscape for that has really changed how we can approach scalable solutions to help more people. And for us at Money Means, the mission is to help everyone get access to financial advisors, not just people with this the level of wealth that you need to be able to serve them. And that's not reflective of advisors generally. That's just the truth. We cannot actually physically scale financial advice in the UK today. There's not enough advisors. Even with AI solutions, you can't do it. You have to find a different approach. And we're really encouraged by what we've seen. People are open to using it. They find it refreshing and different, and it's supporting them of actually making decisions. And I think ultimately the outcome is, let's help more people, and that's what we're trying to do.
And Sally, talk me through sort of how Aida works. Obviously, understandably, it is AI generated powered, so you're gonna supposedly ask it questions, and it will probably give you sort of recommendations as a human planner would. But obviously, being a planner yourself, how are the two experiences different, or how similar? Like, how easy has it been for you guys to sort of formulate a sort of in-person meeting per se with Aida? Yeah, well, so at the moment we're not giving recommendations. We're very clear on that as well. We want to, we're very clear as to what Aida can do and what she can't do. So we don't give recommendations. One of the key things though is we do take on board, a user's circumstances and their context. So what it isn't is just a knowledge base of, right, tell me what a stakeholder pension is, tell me what a stocks and shares ISA is, or tell me what the ISA allowance is. It can answer those questions, absolutely, but what it can also do is take on board a user's, the personal information the user is shared, so those responses are personalised. So that sort of, again, is akin to how a human relationship would interact. An advisor would take on board those comments and know that person. So the response they're giving is personalised to them based on their information. Do you guys hope that one day could provide recommendations? Is that sort of what? And we obviously mentioned this before the cameras were rolling, that a lot of advisors perhaps don't believe that that's something that AI will ever get to, given that robo advice maybe didn't, really work in its first iteration. What is your response to that, I suppose?
You have to understand and know the limitations of AI. So first of all, that is key. So people who raise concerns about it might have seen some of those limitations. What I think people do not recognize is that you can work around them. So you can't look at AI technology in isolation, because even as it stands today, for anyone who's building something decent or something that actually is robust and can be evaluated, they will have code and logic into that. They won't just have AI. So one example is that AI is not good at maths. So one of the reasons why Aida beat ChatGPT is because we knew that, and we get the calculations done deterministically. So the advice outputs or the guidance outputs that we create is created deterministically, and the AI can then use that output and relay that to a customer using the product. So it is about understanding that it's not AI on its own, so it's not what you use when you use ChatGPT. This is a specifically designed product that's been built with different components that pulls different bits of technology in to be able to replicate what a financial advisor does. And the simplest way to explain that is when you get someone new in your business and you train them as a financial advisor, the first steps are very similar to what we've done. Take that person through the exams, get them the knowledge base that they need. That advisor would then go for a period, it's normally around 2 years, to get to competent advisor status. And that competent advisor status is normally where they are observing, learning, being taught how to have interactions with clients, how to communicate with them, how to challenge a client, how to, bring out deep questions, open questions, gather the information that you need. And all of those stages can be done with AI. You can definitely train. Train is not the right word here, but let's use train because it's the same as advisors. So you can definitely train AI to take those steps. And I think what people misunderstand with that is this is never going to be the exact same as financial advice process. It just cannot be because it's digital. So if you think about anything that you do digitally, you would probably not engage with that for an hour. That would be really hard. So we do everything progressively. So we don't do a full fact find and then give someone advice. We progressively build that profile of that client to understand them, help them as we go along so that they build up that trust and confidence over time. Because the way you build trust digitally is completely different to how you build it face to face. So this is not like for like replacing financial advisors, but it's a really good solution to scale financial advice. And that's what I think has been misunderstood because it's different components of tech. And the way you effectively orchestrate that, so the way you pull it together, is what makes it work. And if you know the limitations of AI, you can do that. And you can do that in a way that you will be able to deliver regulated advice, which is what we're going to do.
I suppose just from a sort of soft skills perspective, we talked a little bit about before this about empathy and the fact that AI can provide empathy and sometimes maybe too much of it with empathy bloating. From a soft skills perspective, obviously being, I know Helena, you also were an advisor, and Sally, obviously you are. Soft skills are such an important component of advice, and that's a key skill for advisors to have. In terms of with Aida, how do you guys kind of approach that? Is it something that maybe users that are going to be using Aida may not necessarily need to have those soft skills in terms of not needing to have someone provide them empathy? They just want sort of hard, sort of just financial facts, which is something that obviously Aida can provide given that her level of technical knowledge is so high.
No, we definitely want warmth in it. That's quite a cool part of what we're trying to do. The difficulty is that effectively AI can mimic emotions and can understand sentiment and analyze and spot that. It's never going to be genuine like a human because it can't feel. But it doesn't mean it can't replicate that experience. There's a really fine balance though, because you can't go too much. And also sometimes getting the model to get it right is incredibly difficult because the instructions that you would pass to actually get it to do that might state something explicitly, but in certain circumstances it won't be necessary or it would be too much. So it's a really fine balance of how to do that, but you can effectively create a way to be warm and still have engagement, but we are not actively trying to replicate human empathy and in that way, because that's not, people don't like it. Because they don't like the thought that you're pretending to be human. It's very clearly AI, but it doesn't mean that they don't want that warmth and they don't want that comfort and reassurance and feeling of being able to share. What I think is interesting, though, is that the top use of AI is therapy, and people are using it for it, because ultimately AI tells you what you want to hear. That is what it does in that sense, and sometimes that is very comforting to people and they don't know to challenge it, which is a point Sally made earlier about, critical thinking on it in that sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we want to make sure that users are ultimately getting results. The people that are using this are getting the results, and they're improving their financial circumstances. And I think you need to the interactions with the AI need to be such that they want to stick with it, that there's enough encouragement there, but also that we're firm enough with, that the AI is firm enough with them to actually, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, that we can pick them up on that. So there's a lot of things, there's lots of different facets that have been taken into account, and in time it's about maybe people being able to personalise their journeys as well. So actually someone might want a certain approach, whereas another different approach might work for different people. So it's all these things are possible, and it's just trying to build all those out and get to a point that we can, personalise that journey so that it's the most effective for the people that are using it to ultimately improve their financial situation, which is the end goal.
Because ultimately this is not a question of if, it's, we're here now, given there was a Lloyds Banking, study, over 28 million people in the UK are now using it to, manage their finances. I think ChatGPT was named as the most popular platform. Surely then, within our industry, it's a thing of, well, surely we should try and make it safe to use rather than allowing people to, go on ChatGPT, which can sometimes throw out discrepancies and things like that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts? I know that, Helena, you've spoken about ChatGPT before and sort of the dangers of it, and perhaps to those advisors who maybe sometimes think, this isn't something that is possible. Well, sure, it can be possible, and it should be, because given the dangers that, not having it regulated and not having it kind of in a controlled environment can cause, problems for the end consumer.
I think the simplest way to answer that is look at what you use it for yourself. And I used an example before, travel. I think most people I speak to use ChatGPT for travel itineraries now. What should I do when I go here? The challenge with that, with people using generative models for things like advice, is particularly when they don't know this topic very well, they won't know what's wrong. They won't understand. It's not asking me for more questions. So if you ask a medical question to ChatGPT, it won't delve into, okay, have you got this symptom? Have you got that symptom? What is your history? What's your, the questions a doctor would ask you. The same way that ChatGPT wouldn't ask those questions for someone asking financial advice. But for the person reading that, they won't know that. So the challenge is that it is going to be used, and it already is. And I think even advisors need to be aware that when they issue a suitability letter, what's the quickest way now to get a second opinion? People just uploading it into ChatGPT, and generally people are not scared of the data side. Not many of them. So people are using it, and they will be doing it. The key thing is that there needs to be a shift towards expert models, and where people can use AI that's trained for specific topics like legal, like accountancy, like financial advice, like GPs. And I think that is going to come. I think the service industries in general are going to get disrupted by AI enormously. And we as an industry have an opportunity because we know the job really, really well. And that's why I think our strength as a business is that we have two financial planners in the business that know the job, know and understand what we're trying to create, know what's good, what the kind of questions and contexts is that we need. And I think without that knowledge, we would be nowhere near where we are now. And Sally's been a huge part of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why when we did the exams, we wanted to put Aida up against ChatGPT, because we wanted to see where those discrepancies would lie. And the fact that Aida not only outperformed, but then ChatGPT, didn't fail to pass a couple of the exams, and the ones that ChatGPT failed on were the ones that are involved the calculations. So that was that sort of and we know there is that LLMs have issues with calculations, as Helena touched on earlier. So for us, it was then finding a way around that, and that's where these specific models come in. That we build a specific model that understands that that these might be areas of struggle, and we can guardrail against giving outcomes that aren't correct. Whereas ChatGPT doesn't. It will give you a response, and as Helena said, it won't necessarily ask for follow-up questions. It needs to be able to give you the correct answer, even if it's able to give you the correct answer. So consumers are going in and asking questions and thinking, great, I've got an answer, but it can be dangerous because they don't know whether the answer is correct or not. But you're taking stuff at face value.
Because obviously there's always this discourse of, some advisors think that AI will replace them and there won't be a need. But clearly from what you guys are showing, that actually advisors are in a unique position that they can help to train the AI to be able to provide it in a safe way that is, ultimately going to benefit consumers, those people that they can't necessarily, service because it's not, beneficial for them, but they can help, right? Which is, Sally, what you've shown. What has it sort of taught you, having trained up Aida? Yeah,
well, just going back to your point there, I think spent 20 years in in a traditional financial practice. There's no way that what we're building is going to be those clients that I've worked with for all those years are going to be going over and using Aida. We're not saying that for a moment. Oh, that's not. There's just such a massive underserved market. That's what Aida is designed to help with. There. Sorry, your question.
No, what did you learn by training Aida?
It was challenging. It was definitely very challenging at times. So what we learnt was that in terms of sort of knowledge recall, that was fairly straightforward. So actually the knowledge bank we started with was actually pretty solid and pretty sound. There weren't that many knowledge gaps in there. So for RO1 and RO5, where it's just pulling sort of information around protection or ethics, that it performed pretty well from the start with that. When we moved into the calculations, that's when it was more challenging, and that's when we had some lessons to be learnt then and how we overcame that. And then RO6, when we're looking at a case study, that's a whole different ballgame again, because we had a lot of, Aida had to take into account the context of the situation. So we had the whole case study to feed in, and that's where the skill of applying the knowledge to a user's circumstances comes in, which is what you see played out in Aida. That we're not just answering back and forth questions, that we're taking that context. For the exams that was in the case study, and we're actually applying it and giving you a relevant answer rather than just sort of regurgitating a load of facts about what the question might have asked. We're actually relating it to the users themselves.
Yeah, it's hard to tell people what they don't know as well, which is what advisors do. I mean, there's so much nuance to the job. We wear so many different hats, and it's completely possible to train AI to do all of those hats. But it's been a massive learning curve.
And I suppose just as a final question, looking sort of forward, obviously Aida's taken the exams. She's shown that, an AI model can pass them. Do you think we'll see more people coming into this space? Because Aida's sort of pioneering that, really. Do you think we'll start to see more Aidas? I don't know what you would call them. Aida seems like a good name, but yeah.
It's trademarked.
But yeah, do you think this will become an increasingly more saturated market? Well, we hope so, right? Because we want more people to have more options out there to be able to get financial advice.
Definitely. The challenge, I think, is that where does those businesses come from? So if the businesses are being founded outside of the industry, we've already seen examples where it's completely non-compliant and people don't actually understand the regulation. Even ChatGPT will give you advice if you ask for it and go down that route and cross that line, and then when you challenge, it will say, "Oh no, I've not given you advice." So the key thing is that these generative models of just being wrapped in ChatGPT will cause consumer harm, and we're very concerned about that and think it's a real challenge for the industry. But I think there will be brilliant products that come out of this. And I know there's lots of people looking at the space and looking at the opportunities. I just think the focus has been on processes for AI and financial advice, not on the consumer outcomes. And I'd love to see that a little bit more. And I hope that will come as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Don't forget, you can get all your latest investment, mortgages and pension news on our website, ftadvisor.com. See you soon.